a self-defense claim was made that it probably was self-defense, and that put us in a position of being unable to prove a crime beyond a reasonable doubt.
The victim suffered significant blood loss and underwent surgery, but is expected to recover. Lovis was initially arrested on charges that included attempted murder. The shooting took place in the Countryside Mobile Home Park in South Fargo. A Canby, Minnesota man who attempted to kidnap a girl from a Watertown, South Dakota store more than 4 years ago has been sentenced to 12 years in prison. 39-year-old Peter Kronhoff was convicted by a jury of second-degree kidnapping in January. He was arrested in May of 2018. He was working at Menards at the time. He picked up a young girl in the store and began quickly walking away from the girl's family. The father of the child pursued Kronhoff, asking him to stop, but Kronhoff continued on and was chased into the store's employee break room, where he was held until police arrived. Flags are flying at half-staff in North Dakota, Minnesota, and across the country in honor and memory of the victims of the mass shooting in Highland Park, Illinois. A man is charged with killing 7 people and wounding dozens during a 4th of July parade. The orders come from Governor Walz and Governor Burgum. Flags will remain lowered until sunset on Saturday. Near 82 for our high this afternoon. A partly sunny sky, Fargo-Moorhead. Partly cloudy, humid, patchy fog. 64 overnight. 81, partly sunny. Isolated showers and thunderstorms tomorrow. Partly sunny. 80. Paul Jurgens, News Radio, KFGO.
Got a number of things coming your way here in just a few moments, but KFGO being one of those emergency broadcast systems, we trigger it so you all know when. And you know what? We got one of those required tests. So this is just a test of the emergency broadcasts. And just like that, we passed the test. Emergency broadcast. Got that out of the way. You can join the conversation all day, 237-5948. It's provided by Laney's Studio. And, of course, our iConsults of North Dakota is 35270. If you missed yesterday's show, coming back from your 4th of July celebrations, we did a couple of things. One of which was taking the social media side of the suspect, well, and I think the admitted shooter now in the Highland Park parade over in Illinois. And we broke down with an NDSU professor, Dr. Denton, about those platforms that radicalize individuals. What can be done? Should there be something done about that? And during the show, what we left with by the time 5 o'clock rolled around was the police over in that area released some more information about the history of this suspect. One being that in 2019, officers responded 2 separate times to this individual. One because of suicidal comments, the other because a family member called cops saying that he had threatened to kill every one of them. And in doing so, the cops came and they confiscated and seized a knife collection, a sword, a dagger, and all of that. And what happened after that? A few short months later, he goes and has his dad sign on to an application to get a gun. Then he went and purchased that gun. So December 2019, he had 2020 of January. There was insufficient basis, they say, that clear present danger, non-existent, even though just months ago, Cops came and took knives from him. Now, the thing that really frustrated, one, just the facts that I just laid out to you, but also the fact that Illinois has a red flag law, and it was enacted prior to all this. So those red flags were there online with police reports, and yet somehow the suspect was still able to go and buy firearms that he used to murder 7 people. So the question comes, how did those red flags not get noticed, and how, in fact, do other states then that are attempting to do this make sure it doesn't happen there? And going through this conversation, somebody comes to mind. Her name is Carla Rose Hansen. She is a state representative for District 44 here in North Dakota. In 2019, a bipartisan effort led by her and State Senate Majority Leader Rich Warner to pass red flag laws here in North Dakota. Did not pass, but we'll talk about it. Carla Rose Hansen, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I appreciate you coming on in and talking about this, knowing that things have certainly changed since 2019 when he first introduced this, but ahead of the game, so to speak. I think at the time there was only a dozen so states. The District of Columbia had red flag laws. I remember how much heat you got from people that were opposing this early on. Any of that change in your opinion now that here we are all these years later and you've seen what has happened since?
Yeah, it was a little early in the lifespan of this type of law. Now, these red flag laws actually started a long time ago in a couple states, but they really got momentum after the Parkland shooting in Florida, if you remember that tragedy. Mm-hmm. And a lot more states enacted red flag laws. And just a quick level set on what they are. Mm-hmm. So a red flag law is sometimes called like a crisis protection order or something like that. And it's really meant to be a legal process for either law enforcement or family to go to the court and ask for a temporary restriction on a person because that person is proving to be a danger to themselves. They might commit suicide, or a danger to other people. They might commit murder. Mm-hmm. And so it's really a process in civil court to allow either law enforcement or family to petition to say, let's temporarily remove this weapon. Let's do a timeout for the weapon while this person gets some help. And that's what it is. It's constitutional. It's been around for a long time in a lot of states, so it's kind of proven the test of time. It has due process. It has all the elements of due process, and they're effective. In terms of preventing tragedies, because that's really what the purpose is to take action before warning signs escalate into a tragedy that just can't be reversed.
So I'm glad that we started with the groundwork, because there's some people out there that they've heard the term, probably don't know exactly what that entails. And we'll get into the due process, because that's the thing that always keeps coming back, saying that people are going to abuse this. It'll be somebody, Tyler, I disagree with your politics. I know you own guns. I'll file a civil lawsuit, whatever it might be. But I want to start because you just touched on something that's going to be the crux of our conversation today, that they're effective. Mm-hmm. If you look at Illinois, something didn't happen there, in which there was certainly a lot of red flags online. You had family members calling the police. They took knives from this guy, and a few short months later, there's no red flags. He was able to purchase these guns. So what didn't happen? What didn't happen over there?
It's a great question. So I don't know the details of this particular shooter because there have been 300 mass shootings in the United States just in 2022 so far. The year's only halfway done. So it's hard to always know the details of every case. But the question remains, did anyone in that person's family or did law enforcement go through the process that's in place for a red flag protection order? Or they're sometimes called extreme risk protection orders. It sounds like they went through this experience of calling law enforcement, of having the weapons removed, of expressing alarm, but not necessarily going through this civil process. So if you don't do that, this person is still free to purchase additional firearms. They're not entered into the database that would restrict them from being able to buy a firearm during that period of time.
So I know that this isn't necessarily cookie cutter from one state to the next. So we'll bring it a little bit closer to home here. You talk about a civil process. I know that former police chief, Todd was in favor of this, or his West Fargo police were in favor of this. There's a number of law enforcement that backed your proposal in 2019. What's the civil process if, in fact, because, You had a family member in Illinois call the cops. They came and took knives from him, seized this. To figure out now that there's a whole other process that has to undertake. I mean, there's two things there. One, it's an additional burden, but that should also, on the other side, people saying this is going to be abused, it's not seemingly that easy to do so.
No, it's definitely not easy to abuse because think of it, a civil process would be like, let's say I'm a victim of domestic violence. So there's a criminal aspect of that, like, the person who's abusing might be charged criminally, but there can also be a civil side to that. Like maybe I want to get a protection order against a person that I'm, afraid of abusing me. So there's a criminal side and a civil side, and it's the same way in this situation. Now, we do want to protect all parties, in this process, and that's why we have due process. And really what due process boils down to is notice of a hearing, the opportunity to respond to concerns, and the opportunity to appeal. And that's really what due process boils down to. Many red flag bill, laws in other states and our bill in North Dakota back in 2019 had a component that said it is against the law to give false testimony. So one concern I had back when this was introduced was, someone will abuse it. My neighbor who's feeling vindictive or an angry ex-girlfriend might make a false claim. Well, that's illegal. It's illegal in other scenarios, and it would have been illegal if this had been enacted in North Dakota. You can't make a false claim. Also, it will be investigated. You're going in front of a neutral third party, a judge, there's law enforcement involved, to say, is this even a credible claim to say that this person is a danger to themselves or a danger to others?
Carla Rose Hansen is my guest. She is a representative up in District 44. That's North Fargo. If you have a question or comment, 35270 is how you can reach the program here. This is After He's Live, just getting started. KFGO time is 2:20. We'll be back right after this. This is my guest, Representative North Fargo, District 44, talking red flag laws. So, Representative Hansen, my question is, people are looking at what happened now that we know during the show is when this all broke down. They're going to say, look, no matter what law you pass, this proves that it's not going to work. Red flag laws don't work. Look at Illinois. What's your response to that?
I understand that concern. Now, no single law is going to prevent all violence in our country, right? We need to take a multifaceted approach to preventing gun violence. That means we need more community-based behavioral health services because, frankly, half of all deaths by firearm are suicides, more than half in North Dakota, actually. So we need strong behavioral health services to help people who are experiencing a mental health crisis. We also need domestic violence prevention programs. We need anti-racism programs, and we need common sense gun regulations, which include red flag laws, universal background checks, and other common sense laws that can help remove a gun when the wrong person should not be having it, and we know who those people are.
People are going to be texting in after we get to break here at 35270 saying, well, you know what, this is a gun grabbing bill. I know there was Representative Rick Becker said that over and over in front of every camera he could find during this debate in 2019. So let's talk about the process then. You had mentioned that there's a civil process here, that somebody has to go before a judge, do all this. The question is then, okay, I'm the target of this. Somebody's claiming that I have this tendency towards violence, whatever it might be, but I don't agree with it. What's my process to I guess defend myself? Whether it's a comment I had online, because I keep talking about social media being radicalizing some of these people. What's my rights in this situation then?
Right. So during a hearing, so you'd get notice of a hearing, you'd appear in front of a judge, and the petitioner and the respondent would both appear in front of the judge, and they both kind of present their side of the story, and then the judge decides. The way we had designed it was that it could be in place for up to a year, with the opportunity to be renewed after another hearing at the end of that year, or it could be for a shorter period of time. Maybe that person is experiencing a very short-term situation, like they lost their job, they broke up with their a spouse or something like that. Maybe it's that they just need to get some medical appointments in place and get back on their medication. It could be a whole variety of situations. It could also be something that doesn't is not necessarily reversible. Like I had a number of families come up to me during that time expressing hope that this would be in place for family members who were experiencing dementia or Alzheimer's. And they had great concern about those family members having access to weapons and wanting a process in place. Now, I really want to emphasize that this should be a means of, I call it the means of second to last resort. And here's what I mean by that. I think we should all be talking to our family members or our friends that we have concerns with and having a conversation about that, saying, Tyler, I'm really worried about you right now. How about we take your hunting weapons and go storm at your brother's house for a couple months, just until you get straightened out here. You have a conversation, you figure that out. This would be a step beyond that if that doesn't work. Now, the means of last resort would be a civil commitment. If you are concerned about a person harming themselves or harming others, we can involuntarily commit someone to the state hospital so that they can get the care they need. Now, that's affecting their liberty. I always say that's the last resort. I would rather put the weapon in a timeout than having someone having to go to the state hospital for weeks or months on end where they're not with their family, they're not able to go to their job, they're not able to be in their community.
Messages coming in at 35270. You send them in, we'll read them. Tyler, laws and regulations are important, so law enforcement has probable cause to potentially stop violent crimes, comes in. Others giving you kudos for doing the hard work and being informed. We're talking right now, and do you have just a little bit more time? I know I got a KFGO news update here coming up.
Absolutely.
Because we're talking as these individuals already have purchased and are in possession of. There's the other thing. When I go back to Illinois, this guy should have never been able to go and purchase in the first place. Where does this all fit in? If it's a red flag law, can I do that? If this is enacted before somebody goes and makes the purchase, you got a little bit more time with me?
Absolutely.
Carla Rose Hansen is my guest. Again, you send them in 35270. That's the Eye Consultants of North Dakota. We'll address any concerns, comments, questions you have there. Here's what's coming up. After KFGO News, we'll check out Paul Jurgens. Rusty Halverson will be joining us as well. We're going to continue this conversation because this guy, this murderer, should have never been able to buy a gun. There's 3 months in a time frame here in which the police were called, they took his knives, and then he was able to go and purchase the first of what ended up being a number of these guns that he used to murder people at a 4th of July parade. And we found out today that he intentions on going and doing more of this later on had he gotten away with it. The red flags were there. We're going to continue talking about that when we come back. I'm Tyler Axis. You got locked into Afternoons Live on KFGO.
KFGO News, partly sunny, 81. I'm Paul Jurgens. A prosecutor has decided not to charge a Fargo man who shot his friend during a drunken argument on the 4th of July. 22-year-old Kyle Lovis called 911 and reported that he shot the other man in a mobile home in the countryside trailer park off 25th Street South. Assistant Cass County State's Attorney Ryan Youngren says the victim admitted later that Lovis was defending himself. Lovis was originally arrested on charges that included attempted murder. The man who was shot suffered significant blood loss but is expected to recover. A Washburn, North Dakota man sentenced to life in prison for killing 4 people at a Mandan business is appealing his conviction. An attorney for Chad Isaac argues that the conviction should be reversed because of mistakes during jury selection and violations of Isaac's right to a public trial. Prosecutors have until July 30th to file a response. A jury in August found the 48-year-old chiropractor guilty of killing RJR Maintenance and Management co-owner Robert Faulkner and 3 employees. A motive was never established. A chaotic 4th of July holiday weekend in Minneapolis is prompting city leaders to speak out. 7 people were wounded in a shooting at Boom Island Park, and people were shooting fireworks at cars, pedestrians, and at each other downtown. Mayor Jacob Fry.
This is conduct that should not be acceptable in any city. The kind of violence, the recklessness, and in some cases, idiotic behavior that we saw shouldn't be tolerated. And let me be clear, it won't be tolerated.
The Minneapolis Police Department has 654 active officers, well below its authorized strength of 888 sworn officers. A recent court decision requires the city to have at least 731 officers. 81, this is KFGO News. 81, partly sunny. This is KFGO News. Authorities are searching a portion of the Mississippi River and a surrounding park near St. Cloud for a missing 6-year-old girl whose mother was found dead of an apparent suicide. Lisa Wade may have been involved in the disappearance of her daughter, Elle Reagan, before the North Foyle woman was found dead Saturday. Investigators say they followed up on hundreds of leads and have used boats, dive teams, and underwater search drones in their search near Rice. The chairman of the Minnesota Corn Growers Association says the farmland market is strong in the Midwest. Tim Weibel says the quality ground is selling for $10,000 to $14,000 an acre. He says larger pieces of land don't seem to scare off farmers.
It used to be that 160 acres chunks, a lot of people couldn't handle that. But, the last few years, 160 acre chunks have been bringing about as close as what an 80 does, because there's just people are, I think the guys that are buying the land are in good financial shape.
Fargo police arrested a West Fargo man late last night who tried to get away on a bicycle. An officer attempted to stop 29-year-old Nicholas Peltier near the intersection of 13th Avenue and 34th Street South. He was riding his bike without a headlamp. Police say Peltier tried to get away by riding behind buildings and through yards. He was eventually arrested with the help of other officers. Peltier was arrested for refusing to stop for police, having drug paraphernalia, and possession of stolen credit cards. Residents of Albert Lee in southern Minnesota are cleaning up after flash flooding caused significant damage last night. More than 6 inches of rain fell within 2 hours. Some people waited out the storm inside businesses as their vehicles slowly became submerged in water. Fargo-Moorhead near 82, partly sunny this afternoon. Overnight, partly cloudy, humid, and patchy fogs possible. 64, according to KFGO meteorologist Tom Shemansky. Tomorrow, he says 81, partly sunny, isolated showers and thunderstorms. 84, partly sunny Friday, near 88 degrees. On Saturday, partly sunny. And Sunday, partly sunny, humid, chance of showers, thunderstorms, 86 the high. Partly sunny, 81. Paul Jurgens, News Radio, KFGO.
Rusty Alverson in the KFGO studio. Hey, pal. I was driving back into town this morning.
Uh-huh.
And I was, we talked to the corn and where that was yesterday. There's some soybean fields looking pretty good out there as well.
Yeah, not too bad.
Depending on what direction you're looking.
Yeah, not too bad.
Come a long ways from where I think we started in the spring anyway. Thankfully.
Yeah, thankfully. You're right about that. Speaking of soybeans, North Dakota Soybean Council, they're going to host an online mid-season market outlook webinar that's scheduled for July 29th. You can learn more at kfgo.com under the Agriculture tab or ndsoybean.org, but it's going to be friend of the show, Frayne Olson. And
good
also,
guy, Frayne.
Yep, good guy, Frayne.
Guy can cut some rug, too, if I remember.
That guy can cut some rug.
Anytime you talk about Frayne, I'm going to bring up the fact that you two were just tearing up the dance floor at Eric Johnson's wedding. I mean, it looked like you had a dance-off going.
And everyone looked around and said, did you know that these guys could dance this well?
I knew Rusty. I had no idea about Frayne, but I tell you, it was like when you have in movies where the entire dance floor just forms a circle, and we're just watching these two beautiful couples dance off. It was, you're blushing.
That's not why you called.
I'm still in awe by it.
Well,
do you teach lessons?
No.
Would you consider if the price is right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Everyone's got a price there. Now we got an answer. Anyway, back to the task at hand. Frayne's going to be talking, not dancing.
Webinar coming up July 29th. Again, kfgo.com under the Agriculture tab. Now, the elephant in the room when it comes to the markets is the ongoing war in Ukraine, Tyler. We've talked about this topic often. And during the recent Midwest Agriculture Summit at the Delta Hotel in Fargo, North Dakota Senator John Hoeven commenting on the Ukraine situation and the importance of U.S. producers to be the best they can be. Now, according to Bloomberg News, recently Ukraine's top diplomat casting doubt on a near-term breakthrough in talks to unblock crop exports from Ukraine's Black Sea ports as fears of a global hunger crisis kind of grow.
Sometimes you wonder if that's in fact part of Putin's plan, is to inflict more pain across the region than just in Ukraine.
Yeah, using hunger as a weapon.
It's pretty disgusting, but
it is.
Rusty, I appreciate you reporting. You come back next hour, right?
Yeah, let's talk about trade next hour.
All right.
Okay.
I'll save that chair for you. Rusty Alverson, him and Sarah Heinrich, best in the business. Can't wait till next hour at this time. You can go to KFGO.com. Just click on that agriculture tab. We're going to get to CBS National News, get you some headlines there. When we come back, Carla Rose Hansen still in studio. We're talking about red flag laws. She was the key proponent of it in 2019. Law enforcement in this region, Republican leadership are behind it. It didn't pass. I want to know what happens next going forward. And quite frankly, continue the conversation. We talked about what happens with these types of laws after somebody already owns that farm. Is there any way that these laws prevent somebody from purchasing, like what should have happened in Illinois with this guy that went and committed the murders on our Independence Day? That's a topic at hand. We'll come back to that right after this here on KFGO. Three 35270 is how you can join the conversation. You can call in as well at 237-5948. I'm joined in studio by Carla Rose Hansen. She's a state representative here on the North Dakota side of the river. Minnesota, same thing. They have not enacted, I don't believe, a red flag law. There was an attempt there, but that failed as well.
That's correct.
So here we are. Illinois, in fact, does have a red flag law. And for me, what really got me angry yesterday, well, these 7 deaths, but to find out those red flags were there, and he was still able to purchase. You and I have had a conversation of what a red flag law could do if somebody already owns a firearm and all of a sudden there's some warning signs. Does this law at all prohibit somebody, if there's a red flag, if a family member knows, or if any background check, does this play a role in that?
Right.
Does it potentially?
Yeah, it's all tied together, Tyler. So first of all, I totally understand your frustration. A process doesn't work if people don't use it. So Illinois has a red flag law, but if no one used it for this person, of course it's not going to work, right? So it has to be used. So how that process works in terms of if a person already owns a firearm or they're expressing interest in purchasing one, if they've gone through the process of getting one of these extreme risk protection orders or red flag processes, then their information is entered into the NICS database. So that's the same database that would be used if you had committed a felony or if you had been convicted of a domestic violence offense, or if you had been adjudicated mentally ill. That means you've been involuntarily committed to the state hospital, right? So those are the categories today in which you are a prohibited buyer. You're not allowed to buy a weapon in any of those situations. And then there's a few others, but those are the main ones. So if you have gone through the red flag process and a judge says, yes, I have determined that you are a danger to yourself or others, I am going to prohibit you for 1 year. It's temporary. It's going to go into this database. And that would, if you are buying your weapon from a licensed dealer, then you would be prohibited from buying a new weapon. The process would also involve law enforcement removing any existing weapons that you have from your home. So it's both existing weapons and new weapons. Now, the big loophole, right, is what if you buy a weapon from an unlicensed dealer? So you're buying it from your neighbor, you're buying it online. There's a variety of scenarios there, and we don't have universal background checks in the United States, and that is one thing we could do to help prevent having guns get into the wrong hands.
You talked about the process. People are using it, and I know this was in Illinois. You have nothing to do with it, but I mean, is it funding? Is it resources? What could be some of the fault in this process? Because something clearly didn't work here. Whether somebody didn't report. I know in this instance, and I'm getting a lot of this from the New York Times that has the deep dive here, that his father actually petitioned and co-signed for him to go purchase it. Now, the attorney for the father's claiming that the phone call that another family member made because he was threatening to kill his family was in a different household. So I'm not sure if there's a divorce here or what the background of that is, but the father didn't find anything wrong. And I know there's a whole topic of conversation, well, should he have some liability in this as well? But when you were walking through the process here in North Dakota of what could be established, what were some of the weak points in this chain then?
Yeah, so I would say probably the main weak point in that scenario that you just described is awareness. Does the family know that there is this process available to them? I would certainly hope that law enforcement would know that this process is available because they could also be a petitioner. Some states also allow parties other than law enforcement and family members to do the petition. That's in the minority. But I would say awareness is probably the main problem that a lot of states have. Like we said, the process doesn't work if they don't get used. Probably a secondary concern that I've heard is the defense for the respondent. So if you're the person who we have concerns about, Tyler, some people have said, well, I shouldn't have to pay for an attorney to represent myself at that hearing. That's not fair, right? So our Constitution requires that people have the right to a public defender when they're charged with a criminal offense, right? We also provide public defenders in some civil scenarios as well, like if you're being committed to the state hospital. And most recently here in North Dakota, we have public defenders available for all juvenile cases, which is really a great step. And there's some other situations as well. So one policy decision, budget decision states could make would to say that we're going to make public defenders available for all of these civil procedures, whether they be red flag laws or domestic violence protection order or other types of civil processes like that.
I told you if you text them in, I'll ask them, and I got a lot of them in, and I apologize. I've been backing up. I'm hogging all the time here. Tyler, please ask these red flag laws, while sounding good, give me the creeps. Who gets to decide what is acceptable, not acceptable? An elected judge? It's not like, and then I get another one. It's not like it's a vision exam for a driver's license. Yeah, if someone is making threats on social media, easy call. Are you supposed to give all your passwords to every app, website, to a government official? make a call about your life decision. What's the limit? What if a guy like Trump decided that anyone who supports anyone other than him is unfit for gun ownership? Lots of questions in that. I guess I'll let you take a swing at it here.
And really, that comes down what I'm hearing. The concerns of those comments is the discretion, right? So someone is using a judgment call to decide whether or not you're going to be subject to this protection order for the next 30 days or a year. So someone is making that decision, and those people are trained to make these decisions. Also about your liberty, right? So judges are saying there is probable cause or a higher proof of, standard of proof in the criminal side of things, as well as in the civil world, to say, your liberty is at stake. And I'm making a judgment call on whether, the evidence presented meets that standard of proof. And that's what they're trained in. And, they will get input from a variety of parties, I would imagine.
This was attempted, like I said, the reason why I asked you to come in, because you've obviously studied on this. You introduced it in North Dakota. You had a number of backers, just not in the legislature. People will point at what happened in Illinois and said, this shows that these laws don't work. And that leads me to the next legislative session after an election, and I'm looking at the potential makeup here. Do you attempt this again? Do you see it being more of an uphill battle now than even in 2019?
I'm certainly evaluating that for now. And what I do hear all the time is that people are fed up and people are frustrated. Like we were talking earlier in the hour, there have been more than 300 mass shootings so far in this year alone. And then that doesn't even represent the people who die from gun violence because of suicide or, smaller shootings like murders. That happens in North Dakota. Suicides and murders happen in North Dakota. We've been very lucky not to have, a tragedy like the 4th of July parade or Uvalde or, Buffalo. I mean, the list goes on about things that happen at grocery stores and schools and concerts. But we've been lucky to avoid that. But people are fed up and frustrated, and people are scared. And so what I really encourage people to do is talk to their legislators. I mean, I've brought this forward, but there are 140 other legislators besides me that they could be asking to do something to prevent gun violence.
Carla, I appreciate your time. I asked for like 15 and I got 50 out of you. So I appreciate it. Is there anything you want to get out before I let you go?
No, thanks for raising awareness about this.
Well, I appreciate you having the courage to introduce it and getting someone like Rich Warner, who's unfortunately going to be gone, the Senate Majority Leader on the Republican side, to co-sponsor this. Get all the law enforcement as well. It's unfortunate that a lot of people in Bismarck misled is what I'll say about some of this.
That is a good way to put it. There's a lot of misleading information about this.
Carla Rose Hansen, District 44 representative here in North Dakota. I'm going to get a weather update from Too Tall Tom Schmansky. All these other messages coming in, I will address those when we come back here on Afternoons Live. That's what you're listening to. I'm Tyler Axis, your host. This is KFGO Fargo. Twins are in action right now, so no Chris Adberry. He's in a studio somewhere talking about the Twins, who, in fact, I think just had a home run. It is 5-3. Twins are up over Chicago, the White Sox, top of the fifth right now. So we're going for the sweep today. What was it? Polanco and who else? I think I had back-to-back homers yesterday, so we'll ask Seth about that. In the meantime, your text questions, 35270, or comments, as some of them are. Tyler, to say these laws don't work and to give up on them is a silly idea. We should be looking into why they don't work and who is not following through with the protocols. Completely agree. But I can tell you from sitting in the studio in this chair reading other messages, every time that there is a tragedy, people point to saying, see, look, they had tough gun laws, or look, this was on the books there and it didn't stop it. So this will be used in future conversations on red flag laws in these state legislatures, where the federal government that did, in fact, just recently pass, whatever you want to call it, a compromise. I mean, it was bipartisan gun legislation. One of those aspects was putting a carrot on a long stick and then holding it in front of state legislatures saying, look, if you follow this and you move this direction, we got some money for you. So go ahead, pass these red flag laws. We couldn't muster up enough to do it on the federal side, but maybe state legislatures will, and we'll provide some money for it. I'm not confident that's going to be the case. Certainly not in North Dakota. I mean, you think about the legislative makeup in 2019 when this was attempted, and you've got the Senate Majority Leader joining Carla Rose Hansen, a Democrat from Fargo, getting law enforcement, and there were other Republicans and Democrats on this bill, and I think it got 17 votes in the entire House chamber. So if you think about that, and that was 3 years ago, and you see the trends, and you see the people that won primaries, not universally, but some of them. I think about a Jeff Magrum, for example. He's going to be in the North Dakota Senate, where you're going to have the ability to do floor amendments. Can you think about some of the crazy ideas that are going to be introduced on the floor of the North Dakota Senate? So, I mean, like, my point of the matter is, you're going to be seeing that this example, which somebody failed to do the job of this red flag law that was in place in Illinois that should have prevented this murderer from getting his hands on purchasing guns. The red flags were all over there and they were waving in the breeze. Yet somehow, somewhere along the way, somebody looked the other way, and now he went and killed 7 people. Left a 2-year-old infant without parents who were in their mid-30s. It was enacted. You are absolutely right. That doesn't mean that because of this one incident, this one tragedy, that you say, well, there it is, but I know somebody will be saying that. And I hope you push back on them if they do. Because it is about the process. It's about making sure the money's there to actually fund some of these things and having people in the know about this, about what is available and what should be done if, in fact, a person like this guy went out and posted all over social media about how he's fantasizing on mass shooting, how he was a wannabe rapper, to the point where his family members felt threatened enough by his comments inside their home to call the cops and then to have the cops take his knives. Well, and have a couple of months later, he was out purchasing guns. Red flags were there, folks. Somebody missed them. And it's a tragedy, and there's 7 people dead because of it. There should be these laws available. I just am not confident legislatures are going to be acting upon it because there's a little bit of money involved from the feds when this tragedy happened. That's my take. We'll take yours. Throughout the afternoon here, I got to get you caught up with CBS National News. Paul Jurgens, talk a little bit of Twins because of Linux and Jiffy Lube of Fargo. Stick around. Oh, it's a Billy Ocean for you. I know you're loving it. This song, Get Out of My Dreams, Get Into My Car. License to Drive, the movie, released on this date in theaters. Is that Corey Hart or Corey Haim? Both? I don't remember. It was one of the Coreys. Also today, rapper 50 Cent, 47. You're getting there. You could be that namesake of 50 coming up here in 3 years. Comedian and actor Kevin Hart, 43 years old. Now, this one I want you to pay particular attention to because in the 4 o'clock hour, I've got passes to the Red River Valley Fair, which starts this weekend, because actor, director Sylvester Stallone is 76 today. We're going to be playing in the 4 o'clock hour clips from a variety of Sly Stone's movies. And all you're going to have to do is call in when you hear them. And if you guess correctly, you're going to get a couple of passes to the Red River Valley Fair. The admission's on us here on Afternoons Live. So that's coming up a little bit later on. But first, we got KFGO News. Paul Jurgens is already behind the microphone. When we come back, Seth Stowes is with TwinsDaily.com. We're going to be visiting with him because the Twins are in action right now. 5-3 is your score. Bottom of the fifth. They are in Chicago taking on the White Sox. We'll talk with Seth Stowes right after this here on KFGO.
KFGO News, partly sunny, 81. I'm Paul Jurgens. A prosecutor has decided not to charge a Fargo man who shot his friend during a drunken argument on the 4th of July. 22-year-old Kyle Lovis called 911 and reported they shot the other man in a mobile home in the Countryside Trailer Park off 25th Street South. Assistant Cass County State's Attorney Ryan Youngren says the victim admitted that Lovis was defending himself. Lovis was originally arrested on charges that included attempted murder. The man who was shot suffered significant blood loss but is expected to recover. A Canby, Minnesota man has been ordered to spend 12 years in the South Dakota State Penitentiary for trying to kidnap a young girl in Watertown.
39-year-old Peter Gronhoff was convicted by a jury of second-degree kidnapping in January. He was arrested on May 27, 2018. He was working at Menards at the time. That day, while working, he picked up a young girl in the store without her parents' permission and began quickly walking away from the girl's family.
Reporter Mike Tanner says Gronhoff was followed into the store's break room where he was held until police arrived. His attorney asked for a sentence that would be in line with Gronhoff's mental health needs. The prosecution called him a significant public safety threat. An attorney with a federal agency that reviews national security implications of foreign investments in U.S. companies has told the Grand Forks City Council that the government has shown an interest in the proposed Fufeng corn milling project in North Grand Forks. The lawyer suggested that the city ask Fufeng to allow the agency to review its local land transactions. She says it's possible the project is not in its jurisdiction. Citizen concerns about the project include environmental issues, annexation, and the fact that the parent company has ties to China. The Isanti Police Department north of the Twin Cities is investigating after a 13-year-old boy was badly injured in an attack by an unleashed off-duty police canine. The attack happened when the boy was playing basketball in his driveway. The dog, according to the victim's family, was unprovoked when it suddenly rushed toward the boy and latched onto his hand. The boy was taken to a hospital. The Anoka County Sheriff's Office says the attack involved the agency's canine Bubba. It says it will continue to work with the boy and his family and will be reviewing canine program policies, training, and practices. Bubba and his handler had recently graduated from training and became certified in apprehension and narcotics detection. Near 82, a partly sunny sky this afternoon, Fargo-Moorhead. 64 overnight, partly cloudy, humid, patchy fog, a possibility. 81, partly sunny, isolated showers, isolated thunderstorms tomorrow. Friday, 84 and partly sunny. Partly sunny now, it's 81. Paul Jurgens, News Radio, KFGO.
Before I handed all of you over to the KFGO News Center with News Director Paul Jurgens, I'd said, hey, Twins are up 5-3. That was before Lewis Robert, a guy with two first names, ripped a 2-run game-tying home run. It is now 5-5 off of Pagan, and we're at the bottom of the fifth, one out, and someone is on first. Here to break down how the Twins have been faring so far up until right now is Seth Stills. You can check out his work at twinsdaily.com, and a friend of the show here. Seth, I was feeling a lot better before I talked to you right now.
Well, the effect I have on people. I mean, speaking of breaking down, let's talk about the Twins bullpen, right?
I know, gone. It was gone, is what Lewis Robert said just a few short moments ago, and in fact tied this game up. Looking to sweep, though, Chicago White Sox. The last night I was catching some of the game here on KFGO. Was it Kilroff and was it Polanco back-to-back? I mean, they're finding a way to make some contact, and you know what? When they do, it's been good. I mean, it's been home runs. They're kind of finding that bomba squad, so to speak, again here. But what's your take on how we've kind of bounced back from the last time you and I talked? I go, should I be worried? We've lost a number in a row. I'm looking at Cleveland kind of nipping on our heels. I'm feeling a little bit better now.
Well, yeah. I mean, it was such a rough series against Cleveland last week, but, things have turned around this week. Cleveland's potentially about to get swept by the Tigers, and obviously it'd be nice if the Twins could find a way to sweep Chicago and have a nice 5.5-game lead going into the rest of the week and an off day and a couple of off days. They need that. But, I mean, you mentioned their offense. The starter, Michael Kopech, for the White Sox last night had given up something like 5 home runs over 68 innings so far this year, and he gave up 4 to the Twins in 4 2/3. So they're definitely finding their stroke, and maybe it's halfway through the season. Maybe it's guys getting healthy. It's probably a combination of all those things.
Do you ever feel, I mean, you're a student of this game. You write about it. And you ever feel bad? You mentioned the starter last night for the White Sox. Because I'm watching homer after homer after it felt like 2 more home runs. Do you ever get to the point where, God, I kind of feel bad. Would you just pull this guy from the game already? He's having a tough go.
Yeah, when it's the Twins that are hitting the home runs, I don't feel too bad. When it's the Twins that are giving up the home runs, I'm definitely yelling, "Get out of there! Get them out of there!" But it's a tough spot. Obviously, you want to just keep hitting and hit the ball hard, and hopefully, good things happen.
Seth Stoll's my guest. This conversation, by the way, brought to you by Linex, so you can find them on Main and West Fargo for your truck accessories, so much more, and Jiffy Lube, where you can get more done in a jiffy, with their 3 convenient locations here in the Fargo area. You mentioned health-wise, people kind of coming back, and I think that, every league and every team has, been bitten by the bug at some point, but, we have gotten, Kirilloff, he's looking a little bit refreshed. We needed him back in a big way. Well, he has. That power swing is back, so maybe it is timing, maybe it is health-wise. It just feels good to be back on the winning side here.
Yeah, and Jorge Polanco, his back obviously seems much better. He just turned 29 yesterday, hit another home run today. Having him back and hopefully putting up the types of numbers he did last year would be huge. But it's more than that. I mean, Byron Buxton's staying healthy, staying on the field, playing more. He's played all 3 games in this series, and obviously when he's on the field, good things happen. So, but pitching-wise, too, I mean, they've got some guys that have come off the injured list. Josh Winder, getting back into the rotation. It ebbs and flows all season. And then really the White Sox are the same thing. They missed Lance Lynn and Lucas Giolito early in the season, and Eloy Jimenez just came back, and I think Lewis Robert was out for a while. So, every team fights this, and it's just a matter of how much depth you have and how to keep going.
Seth, earlier today, as I was perusing over my Twitter machine, I'd seen that you had shared something from Twins Daily that one of your colleagues wrote about Nelson Cruz reunion, and he said, "I can't think of even one for bringing him back." Elaborate on this Nelson Cruz tweet of yours.
Oh, I think it was Cody Christie, West Fargo native himself, wrote up a quick article this morning and then posted it about, really simply just saying, is there any reason that the Twins should consider bringing back Nelson Cruz at the trade deadline? And the Nationals certainly aren't going to make the playoffs, so he could be available. For me, the question is, does this team really need a DH? And what would you have to give up to get Nelson Cruz? And he hasn't been the same player. So I think that's, one of those fun things to think about, but I don't think it makes sense for the Twins this year.
This bullpen, it's been one of those issues, I think, on people's minds for quite some time. And it does have its moments where you start pounding tables because of it, and I think one of them on the mound right now with Pagan. I mean, what if anything can be done out here when it comes to this bullpen? That we've been in positions to win games, and I think of the Cleveland series where, all right, we have this, all of a sudden we're losing by a run. What if you had the checkbook, you had the decision, and it's all in your hands, you're at that front desk, what can be done here? Anything?
Yeah, well, certainly. They've got a lot of depth in the minor leagues. They could go out and get some veteran bullpen arms, which, of course, are always hit and miss, but you hope they hit over the final 2 months of the season. So they could do that. And I think they will do that, certainly toward the end of July. I think the trade deadline's August 2nd this year. The other side is I think you just have to do a little self-evaluation. Like, anyone listening can sit there and think, which of the Twins' 8 relievers right now do you feel comfortable when they come into the game? And, for me right now, that's obviously Joan Duran, Griffin Jacks, and Caleb Thielbar right now. And actually Tyler Duffy's been really good the last 3-4 weeks. So that's only 4 guys. So when you realize that, there's 4 other guys that you're just not necessarily sure what you're going to get from outing to outing. There where your weakness is, and you have to address it. Maybe Jorge Alcoa comes back at some point this year. Maybe they move some of their minor league prospects up and then have them pitch out of the bullpen temporarily, for the rest of the season. They certainly have options, but I have no doubt that they'll go out and get some, maybe even multiple quality relievers or veteran relievers at the trade deadline.
Curious your thought on this, because something that gets thrown out is Rocco Baldelli's pulling starters too soon. And, maybe that's why we rely too much on this bullpen. I'm just curious, when it comes to his management of pitchers, what's your take on that, Seth?
Oh, I'm fully supportive of how he's done it. Guys like Chris Archer, Dylan Bundy, they have had injury history, so I have no problem with being smart with them in terms of, not only injury-wise, but, the statistics when a pitcher gets to that third time through the batting lineup, it's so terrible that anyone coming in is going to be better. And then you get the young guys who, a lot of them did not pitch at all in 2020 and, didn't get a full allotment of innings last year. And, you still worry about those guys. So, I think it's the right thing to do. It was a lot easier to do when they had as many as 14 or 15 pitchers on the roster. But since they changed that a couple of weeks ago back to what it will be going forward, which is no more than 13 pitchers, it definitely can make it tough. But I think you'll continue to see that St. Paul to Minneapolis and back and forth continue, and hoping to find the right mesh of guys that then can come up. Maybe Giovanni Moran is going to be a guy they rely on as the game and the season goes on. But I have no problem with decisions to take guys out when they have.
I think it's probably not acknowledged enough how big of a deal it is to have just that couple of miles between St. Paul and Minneapolis for these players to kind of go this back and forth, and that familiarity with it. You've got your routine. You're not all of a sudden jumping on a plane and flying over a couple of states. You're basically able to stay at home and then just go to a different ballpark. I think that is something that has been at least from me, underappreciated when it comes to this Twins organization and it comes to the Saints as well. Before I let you go, Seth, we can't ignore the fact that first, in fact, I think this ball is going to the the Hall of Fame somewhere. The 8-5 triple play, that's pretty legit. Your thoughts on it before I let you go?
First of all, Byron Buxton is the greatest center fielder in baseball. Has been for his whole career, even if he hasn't won all the Gold Gloves. Just a tremendous play. Secondly, watching it, you almost had to watch it a second and even a third time to try to figure out what the White Sox base runners were thinking, which was apparently nothing, because whatever they were doing, it was wrong. And it was just kind of fun. It was huge in terms of timing. The Twins really needed that. They were just on the cusp of losing a lead, and they were in a situation with a couple guys on, and to get 3 outs on one play is always a good thing. But, Urshela played it well, and they didn't overreact. They just calmly got the 3 outs and called it a day.
That's why we watch the game, my friend. Seth, I appreciate you always filling in when we need you. You always answer when I text and call, and We'll be doing it again soon. I hope you continue that pattern. All right, my friend? We'll let you go and talk again later.
Thank you. I enjoy it anytime.
All right. Seth Stowe's twinsdaily.com. You can check out his work and others right there. That conversation brought to you by Linex of Fargo-Moorhead. You can find them on Main West Fargo, truck accessories, and so much more. Plus, you can get more done in a jiffy with Jiffy Lube with their 3 area locations. I'm Tyler Axis. Afternoons Live is rolling on this Wednesday afternoon. Stick around. Allow me a moment, if you will, since we are talking sports for just a moment. I know there's a lot of messages in here that I will address, and I feel like I've got to clear something up, but I don't know if you're hearing something different than what I'm saying. But big news in the NFL. Carolina Panthers traded with the Cleveland Browns. Baker Mayfield, quarterback number 1. I don't know. Am I happy about it? Sort of. Is it a step up from Sam Darnold? Without a doubt. Is it going to take us to the playoffs? I am not hopeful there, maybe. Still got that whole Tom Brady issue, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But they made a move.
He does go from 2 different top 5 running teams, right? I mean, Cleveland had a heck of a running game the last few years.
And we've got arguably the best running back in the entire NFL,
would say
Christian McCaffrey. If like we talk about Byron Buxton, he stays healthy, best center fielder in all baseball. I mean, MVP. Christian McCaffrey stays healthy, best running back in the NFL.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how Mayfield fits into that, because he's got a little bit of front runner to him, where if he's ahead, he can get things rolling and start looking really good.
And then he gets when
he gets
panicky
behind, he can get a little messy with the ball and not have good things happen. But if you can bring the Cleveland Browns from where they were pre-Baker Mayfield to the playoffs.
We're talking playoffs. Yes, we are talking playoffs.
I mean, I don't see why you can't do it with another team.
Now, again, I said allow me just one moment. I'm going to ask for another moment, so I'm asking for 2 moments here. That's a young defense. I was looking pretty good. They had a good building core on the other side of the ball. So we talk about Baker Mayfield, how he plays with the lead. But you got a defense over there that's not allowing a lot of scores. Hopefully, they're going to be improved. That certainly is a winning formula.
And it's almost no risk for your squad. Cleveland's paying 2/3 of its contract, and you gave them a conditional fifth round.
Conditional fifth round, and here's $5 million. Cleveland, you go ahead and pay the other, like 18, 15 million?
I think.
And then, hey, Baker, are you willing to take like a $3 million salary cut? Oh, you are? Sure, come on over. We'll get you on the next flight.
Yeah, I think what I read is Cleveland's going to end up paying him about 10, and Carolina's going to end up paying him about 5.
5, yeah. So that's a great deal making.
In the world of no risk whatsoever, this is way up there for an NFL team.
It's a great deal. It's a deal you can't refuse. Tyler, why do we care about the Panthers again? I said allow me 2 moments.
You get 0.
You got 0, according to Mike, who texted in with his name on there. I asked for 2. You don't want me to have any? 35270. That's the text club. You can call me. Tell me how worthless the Panthers are and how you don't care about them at 237-5948. Oh, and remember, okay, 3 moments, Mike. Give me 3 just moments of your time. I had said earlier, because when you're putting the script and the schedule, which they are the same thing, when you're putting the schedule together in the NFL, they have key moments as though they're trying to get a storyline together for you so you care about a Panthers game. Week 1, Carolina's hosting the Cleveland Browns. As I said to Derek Hansen, because this has been talks for quite some time, I go, you watch. They scheduled this game in anticipation, just like it's out of a movie script, that Baker Mayfield is going to be with the Carolina Panthers. Then all of a sudden people care about Week 1's game. Here I am, looking pretty right on that one. Okay, I'll move on.
We might have to try to dig up that audio.
Because it's true. You remember it?
I do.
I said it into this microphone when you still didn't care about the Panthers, but you gave me a moment of your time then. Okay, we'll come back here after KFGO News. I'm going to ask Rusty Halverson about dumpster diving. I'll ask you if you've ever been dumpster diving as well. But on a more serious note, the red flag law and the conversation that's in this text club, it seems that I need to clarify, because the way I'm reading some of your messages in, as though I'm the one saying, look, it didn't work in Illinois, so we just got to scrap it. I'm not. I think it is well worth attempting to get these on the books and then have the money and the resources and the personnel to make sure it works. So when the red flags are there, then it does go through its process, and for that time, which that person is a harm to themselves or others, that this mechanism is available. What I have been saying, or at least attempting to say, and I'll clarify here, is that's going to be the argument for people that don't want any new laws on the books, period. They're going to point to Illinois and say it didn't work there. It goes to show no laws will prevent this from happening. They're wrong. But you have got to push back on that narrative, because it will be used over and over and over in states like Minnesota and North Dakota and even maybe South Dakota if you attempt to pass a red flag law, because there's federal money on the line now. But I'll read some of your messages and I'll clarify that again when we come back after KFGO News. I'm Tyler Axis. This is After News Live. Stick around.
KFGO News, partly sunny, Fargo-Moorhead 82. I'm Paul Jurgens. Applications for Minnesota's frontline worker COVID bonus checks must be completed by July 22nd. Demand has been greater than anticipated, with more than 900,000 people asking for the benefit. Still, House Majority Leader Ryan Winkler says the check should still be more than $500 below the original estimate of $750.
The workers who stepped up, risking their health, their family's health at the beginning of the pandemic and all the way through to keep us going, need to apply and try to get recognized for their work. And if you don't apply by July 22nd, you're not going to be eligible. So I would encourage anyone who meets the criteria and was a frontline worker to get their application in as soon as possible.
The legislature approved $500 million for the Hero Check program. Among those who should qualify are healthcare workers, custodians, teachers, emergency responders, child care, retail, restaurant employees, and others. 82, this is KFGO News. '82. This is KFGO News. The prosecutors decided not to charge a Fargo man who shot his friend during a drunken argument on the 4th of July. 22-year-old Kyle Lovis called 911 and reported that he shot the other man in a mobile home in the Countryside Trailer Park off 25th Street South. Assistant Cass County State's Attorney Ryan Youngren tells KFGO News the victim later admitted that Lovis was defending himself. Lovis was originally arrested on charges that included attempted murder. The man who was shot suffered significant blood loss but is expected to recover. A Canby, Minnesota man who attempted to kidnap a girl from a Watertown, South Dakota store more than 4 years ago has been sentenced to 12 years in prison. 39-year-old Peter Groenhoff was convicted by a jury of second-degree kidnapping in January. He was arrested in May of 2018. He was working at Menards at the time. He picked up a young girl in the store and began quickly walking away from the girl's family. The father of the child pursued Groenhoff, asking him to stop, but Groenhoff continued on and was chased into the store's employee break room where he was held until police arrived. The search for a missing 6-year-old girl from Northfield, Minnesota is now focused on Mississippi River Park near Rice in Stearns County. Elle Reagan was last seen June 19th, and her mother, Lisa Wade, was found dead of an apparent suicide Saturday in her townhome. Northfield Police Chief Mark Elliott says he recently learned that the mother was at the park prior to the girl's disappearance.
The search revealed evidence related to this case, including the discovery of Elle's cell phone on land and Lisa's cell phone and purse containing her driver's license and vehicle key fob in the river. The search of the park and the river is ongoing, and the park and this portion of the river is closed to the public at this time.
Residents of Albert Lea in southern Minnesota are cleaning up after flash flooding caused significant damage last night. More than 6 inches of rain fell within 2 hours. Some people waited out the storm inside businesses as their vehicles slowly became submerged in water. XL Energy says 55,000 customers lost power when a long line of severe thunderstorms rolled across South Dakota. Most customers have their electricity restored now. The Sioux Falls National Weather Service office is damaging wind, hail, and flash flooding moved through the region. The storms toppled trees and power lines, blocked roads, and caused home and building damage in Potter, Sully, and Hyde counties. Near 82 are high this afternoon, Fargo-Moorhead, and we are at 82 at our South Fargo KFGO studios. Partly cloudy, muggy, patchy fog overnight, 64. Near 81 tomorrow, partly sunny, isolated showers and thunderstorms. Friday, partly sunny, 84. 88. Saturday, partly sunny, humid for Sunday. Chance of showers and thunderstorms is 86, the high. Again, it's 82. Paul Jurgens, News Radio, KFGO.
You got to be careful with that Joan. She's sneaky, very sneaky.
Like a cat.
Once we get the headsets on, all of a sudden people can pop into the studio without you knowing.
Yeah. Woo.
If you were watching on YouTube or KFGO.com, maybe you saw Joan drop off.
That was a jump
Scared
scare.
Rusty. Glad the mic was off. You probably would have heard a naughty word over the airwaves here.
Oh, my goodness sakes. I've been watching Stranger Things, so I'm kind of jumpy.
So I had to pause one of those episodes. It was 2 hours and 20 minutes. We started way too late. Why are they making episodes 2.5 hours long?
Wow. Tyler, I am just impressed with the volume of this new season and the quality of it. Mm-hmm. No spoilers. I'm just impressed. I know. It's
been enjoyable.
Yep.
But yeah, 2.5 hours. You already have broken up into episodes. I actually paused it in an area that is a clean break. This is the end of this episode before you go on to the other one. This doesn't have to be 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
Then I can make the decision to come back and watch the next episode the next night.
Yeah, then you make that decision at 10:20 p.m.
Yeah, and you say, I'm going for it, you said.
We're going for it.
We didn't. We said, not tonight. There's fireworks going off. Let's watch some of those. Apparently, I had to get that off my chest, so thank you for allowing me the opportunity.
Me too.
You were talking last hour, the soybean hosted the online mid-season market outlook webinar, which is a mouthful.
Yep, it's coming up July 29th, and again, you can check it out at kfgo.com under the agriculture tab or at ndsoybean.org. We talked last hour, Tyler, a little bit about the Ukraine situation, and that throws a real monkey wrench in trying to predict what the markets will do. I mean, trying to predict what the markets will do is hard enough already, but this is something new. And we heard from Senator John Hoeven last hour talking about how U.S. producers need to step up for food production. We need to get some of those exports out of Ukraine. Now, Minnesota Senator Amy Klobuchar, during the recent Midwest Agriculture Summit at the Delta Hotel in Fargo, also commented on the situation, stressing the importance of trade deals and negotiations to feed the world. As you know, Tyler, USMCA replaced the NAFTA trade agreement that was recently negotiated. But speaking of China, senior U.S. and Chinese officials earlier this week talking about the U.S. economic sanctions against that country. Amid reports, the White House is thinking about rolling back some of the levies imposed by the previous Trump administration. But U.S. officials, they've still got problems, including the impact of Russia's war against Ukraine on the global economy and also China's unfair non-market economic practices. So we'll see where the Biden administration goes on that.
I had seen some headlines that they were considering those tariffs that were imposed by the Trump administration.
Correct.
Because of inflation, because of the impact of what it's doing to costs, which if I'm going to say that during the previous administration, say, look, China's not paying these tariffs. You and I are when we buy those products. They're still on there, ladies and gentlemen. So if I'm going to have an issue with it in the previous administration, rest assured, I still have an issue with it right now. And if this is one of the ways that could alleviate some of the stress you're feeling in the pocketbook, I'm interested. I'm not going to play into that argument, though, but I know what you're talking about because I did see the headlines there that they're considering no action yet, though, you're saying.
I will agree that anything that is easier on our pocketbooks would be a good idea at the present time.
Very good. Rusty, I appreciate it. I didn't even ask you about dumpster diving on there. I'll save that for a conversation with my producer, Eric Johnson, in the last hour. I'll let you get on out of here, my friend.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks for coming on in. If you can't wait till tomorrow, you can go to kfgo.com. You can check out Sarah Heinrich's work. You can see more from Rusty Halverson. Just click on that agriculture tab. As you are getting that update, the Twins did go up. It is 6-5 in the top of the seventh right now out in Chicago. CBS News is on the way. When we come back here, my question is going to be this. Should the father who signed off on sponsoring his son's application for a gun permit in 2020, despite knowing that his son had threatened to kill himself and his family, and the police had confiscated his knives, should there be anything on Bob Crimo, the father of the son that is the alleged killer in Highland Park? And I want you to think about the last time we asked this question from the parents that went and bought the guns and ammo for the school shooter in Michigan. and think about what you had said then. So do you think that this father, because of the timeline that I shared earlier on, that officers responded in 2019 to reports that he tried to kill himself, that's just a couple of months before the family had to call as saying that he's pledging to kill everyone in the family. That's 2019. His father in 2020 sponsored him to go get a gun. Does he bear any responsibility? 35270. You can also call me at 237-5948. We'll come back to that conversation right after the CBS News on KFGO. Yeah, one more time, set this timetable for you and ask you the question whether or not this father in Illinois bears any responsibility. Now, his father ran for mayor in Highland Park. This is a pretty well-off family. In fact, this part of the country, that community is pretty affluent. But here's the timeline. Officers had responded in 2019 after someone reported that the suspect had tried to kill himself. And they came to his home a few months later, seizing a knife collection, swords, and daggers after a family member reported that he had pledged to, quote, kill everyone. That happened in 2019. In 2020, the suspect's father sponsored the application for a gun permit, despite knowing that the alleged killer had threatened to, like I just told you, not even a full year before, we're talking months before, threatened to kill himself and his family, the family of which he is the father of. I mean, what bigger red flag do you need than the police coming and taking knives or the knife collection from your son to say, well, geez, I was unaware that anything was wrong. I'm not buying it. But my question to you is then, okay, this individual, this suspect, killed 7 people. Today he admitted it. Today he admitted that not only did he want to do what he did in Highland Park, in fact, he was going to get in that vehicle dressed as a woman to evade arrest and go commit another mass shooting with the gun that he had in his vehicle at the time. So the suspect's admitting he did it. The father admitted that he sponsored his son's application. So my question for you, should anything be done to hold the parent, this father, accountable for doing this after everything you just heard? Because I remember turning this microphone on as you and I discussed what happened in Michigan, in which a student, all the red flags were there, teachers were calling, there was principals calling, everybody that was in the know said this kid has some red flags. And what did his parents do? Well, they went and bought him guns. They went and allowed him to have those firearms. And then when that was discovered that he was looking up where to buy ammunition for those guns in school and the parents were warned about it, his mom said, try not to get caught. Well, he got caught after he murdered kids, classmates in that school. And then his parents went on the run. And they're in jail right now. Rightfully so. Because they knew the red flags were there. They saw it, and yet they still abided by allowing him to own that gun as a child or a young adult. To me, there's a few similarities here. Or at least the lines can be drawn that he knew as a parent, because his son threatened to kill his family, that the red flags were there. Maybe you shouldn't have signed on it. 35270, that's the I Consultants of North Dakota Text Club. Tyler, the parent that signed off, should share responsibility, as did the school shooter's parents. Tyler, the father, should be held liable. I strongly feel liability insurance should be required to carry a gun to protect the public financially. Others that came in before this question for you, if the red flag doesn't work, excuse is then we might as well not have laws because someone broke those laws too. Meanwhile, children are being hollowed out. Try cleaning up the aftermath and try arguing for these unnecessary weapons. Tyler, I don't care, or I don't think you could get a consistent diagnosis of mental health between evaluations. There are going to be evaluations that absolutely hate guns and will make sure they are taken away. And then an evaluator think it's a crime to take guns. Too much politics, not enough pure diagnosing. See, there's a common thread I hear and I read in the red flag laws saying who's going to administer this? And if it's an elected judge, is it an appointed judge? Well, you know, there's politics behind that as well. And will that come into play? It's almost tough for me to look you in the eyes through these airwaves and say no, because everything has become political nationally. You can talk about, hey, you know what, this corner is pretty dark in our neighborhood. We should maybe consider using our tax dollars collectively and put a street light here. And somehow, some way, that gets into partisan politics these days. Is it an excuse to not do anything? No. I'm trying to get across. I get what you're saying. I just don't know that it's as broad in the actual practice of it right now. I don't. I think the process that you heard from Carla Rose Hansen, the way it would play out, that there's enough checks and balances here. And that if somebody were to use politics, or somebody was going to try to use, some vengeful thinking, saying, God, this is a bad breakup, I hate his guts, I'm going to file a report, make sure all those guns he loves so dear and that gun cabinet aren't his anymore. You file that false report, that's a crime in and of itself. Those checks are there if they're done properly. And what I'm fearful of is what you saw in Illinois, that the thing was not done properly, and then this mass shooting happened, and that's going to be the excuse to not enact them in other states. More coming in at 35270. I got to get you this weather update from Too Tall Tom Schmansky. We'll continue this conversation. I think the father should have to answer to why he signed on to sponsor his son's gun ownership, knowing months before his knives were taken away because he was going to kill his family. It's all police reports. It's all right there. Red flags. Beaming bright. Missed. 7 people are dead. Weather with Too Tall Tom will wrap up the second hour of Afternoons Live right after this. officials having a say, bringing up Ron DeSantis and what was just signed into law down in Florida. And, okay, I was going to bring this up yesterday. Didn't get a chance to, and we can dive into this, certainly, because it's one of those, are you serious? This is where we're going when it comes to at least universities. Because Ron DeSantis, who, let's be honest here, and the Republican lineup for potential presidential runs, you've got Donald Trump and you've got Ron DeSantis. And I think DeSantis is only about 9 points behind Donald Trump, who's clearly the front runner. The Republican Party is Donald Trump still. Ron DeSantis, close second right now. And in Florida, the bill that was just signed requires students and professors to register their political views with the state. So sure, you're going to college to be a veterinarian, but I want to know who you vote for. Because that matters, right, ranchers out there? You're bringing your cattle in, and all of a sudden, I want to go with that. I want to go with the conservative veterinarian, because why is this necessary? Now, their claim is why they backed this bill is to make sure that, all viewpoints are being taught. Wasn't that interesting? Because this is the same legislature and the same governor that said, well, unless it's critical race theory, you can't allow that in universities or schools. So it's not as we just want to make sure all viewpoints are heard, and we think that universities are just bastions of liberalism. As somebody who graduated from North Dakota State University, the whole argument that all universities are really just indoctrinating these young adults, they're minds that can be molded with all these liberal policies. I'm not there. I can tell you from walking around on that campus. And I loved my time at NDSU. In fact, that's why we still reach out and have people from NDSU on. And there's nothing wrong with that. I didn't feel as though I was isolated by being, a Democrat at NDSU. Still don't. But for whatever reason, there's this fear among people like Ron DeSantis in Florida that they're being censored, conservatives being censored on universities and campuses. So, we'll check how many there are on these campuses, make sure that they're being heard, and if not, in our view, if they're not having an equal footing, we'll just go ahead and slash funding for universities. Now, imagine this were a governor in New York or California or Minnesota, where you got a Democrat. And you got a legislature that might allow some of these to happen. Certainly not yet in Minnesota. I know it is one of the few, if not still the only, legislature across the country that has a split chamber. But take it for a walk. It's a Democratic administration over there, and you're wanting to go to more MSUM or the U of M, and you have this in, and if not, then all of a sudden we're going to. Would you be comfortable with that if it were a Democratic governor doing what they did down in Florida? Because I really doubt it. It's wrong. It's unnecessary. And if you're going to be punishing universities because as a governor don't feel that they're in fact sharing all sides, meaning the side that you want to be taught, that's a dark, dark path to be walking down. Love to hear from you. 35270. I appreciate you bringing that up. Got that off my chest. You can get off yours. The final hour, you meet this microphone, your cell phone. I do want to remind you, we've got some passes to the Red River Valley Fair that does start this week. All we're going to do for you is play some Sly Stone audio, and you just have to call in or text in what movie that is from, and we'll get you a 2-pack of passes to get into the Red River Valley Fair. I'm going to be out there a couple of times. I'll tell you when. In the final hour of Afternoons Live, I'm Tyler Axis, and this is KFGO Fargo. things maybe you're seeing online that are not in fact true, or maybe they are, and we just let you know one way or another. But this fact checker is going to be in relation to a text I received. If you missed, I was talking about Ron DeSantis and the Republicans in Florida wanting students, faculty, staff at universities to survey and figure out the political beliefs. And then if it's not flushed out in the way Ron DeSantis wants it to be, then they'll threaten and they'll cut funding. Messages coming in. One of them stands out. Tyler, how are the Florida colleges different from KFGO? You can't work there unless you vote Democrat, which in of itself is not true. There's actually a lot of Republicans that work here. Some of them actually have said it on air, and I don't know if I'm going to say their names for you, but I assure you, conservatives do work at KFGO. But here's another thing that's completely and vastly different. The Florida colleges and the universities, taxpayers, public institutions, KFGO privately owned. All of it, everything that you have in here is just apples and oranges and just simply not true. A lot of Republicans work here, and I'm proud to be working with them. And you know what? Even more proud to call them my friends. Get you caught up with KFGO News. When I come back, we'll continue this conversation. Also, Red River Valley Fair passes coming your way if you get the Sly Stone movie right. That's coming up in this final hour. Stick around.
KFGO News, partly sunny, 83. I'm Paul Jurgens. A body has been recovered from the Red River in Moorhead. Police say juveniles discovered the body along the shoreline near 7th Street and 10th Avenue North at about 12:30 this afternoon. Captain Derek Swenson says the body was that of a man. He says it appears the body had been in the river for a significant amount of time. The fire department pulled the body from the water. The body was sent to the Ramsey County Medical Examiner's office in St. Paul. The Clay County Sheriff's Office in Sanford ambulance assisted at the scene. A prosecutor has decided not to charge a Fargo man who shot his friend during a drunken argument on the 4th of July. 22-year-old Kyle Lovis called 911 and reported that he shot the other man in a mobile home in the Countryside Trailer Park off 25th Street South. Assistant Cass County State's Attorney Ryan Youngren says the victim admitted that Lovis was defending himself.
They took some careful time reviewing the crime scene, got as much information from the suspect as they possibly could, and from the individual I'll call the victim, as he was shot twice. Once he came out of surgery and came back to consciousness, he gave a statement that seemed to corroborate what the suspect's statement was, that they had been drinking, had gotten into a mutual fight.
Lovis was originally arrested on charges that included attempted murder. The man who was shot suffered significant blood loss but is expected to recover. A Washburn, North Dakota man sentenced to life in prison for killing 4 people at a Mandan business is appealing his conviction. An attorney for Chad Isaac argues that the conviction should be reversed because of mistakes during jury selection and violations of Isaac's right to a public trial. Prosecutors have until July 30th to file a response. A jury in August found the 48-year-old chiropractor guilty of killing RJR Maintenance and Management co-owner Robert Faulkner and 3 employees. A motive was never established. An attorney with a federal agency that reviews national security implications of foreign investments in U.S. companies has told the Grand Forks City Council that the government has shown an interest in the proposed Fufeng milling project in Grand Forks, North Grand Forks. The lawyer suggested that the city ask Fufeng to allow the agency to review its local land transactions. She says it's possible the project is not in its jurisdiction. Concerned citizens about that project Citizen concerns about the project include environmental issues, annexation, and the fact that the parent company has ties to China. Fargo-Moorhead, low 80s are high this afternoon. We've just hit 83, a partly sunny sky. Partly cloudy, humid overnight, patchy fog, and 64. Then tomorrow, partly sunny, isolated showers, isolated thunderstorms, 81, 84 Friday, partly sunny, 88 Saturday, 86 Sunday. 83, Paul Jurgens, News Radio, KFGO.
As you were getting in the know from Paul Jurgens of the KFGO News Center, I was listening, but I was watching. Urshela, 2-run home run. 8-6, top of the 8th, your Minnesota Twins. But every time I see Urshela, I was telling Eric Johnson, he's my producer. I'm Tyler Aggs, your host. This is Afternoons Live. Thanks for keeping it locked in to KFGO. I said every time I see his name, I think of Ursula, and I had the wrong movie. It's Super Troopers. And I don't remember the reference. Was she the cop that was in the police, like the city cop?
Yeah, she was the city cop that they put on dispatch all the time, and then Farvo was
Ursula.
he had a certain representation of her in his trunk, and they were talking about it.
Correct. Now it's all coming back. I never saw the second one of that.
It's got a few laughs in it. Yeah, I mean it's one of those like you catch it sometime, you'll giggle a few times. I wouldn't go out of my way to make sure you see it.
Let's rank this real quick. Super Troopers or is it Beer Fest? That's the other one. I go Beer Fest.
Really?
I prefer Beer Fest over Super Troopers.
Okay. Boy, I think I lean Super Troopers in that one, but it is. I love the Broken Lizard movies, even the stupid ones. Club Dread.
Never saw.
Got some really funny points to it.
Don't they? Are they like in some TV show now?
Service? Yeah, I think a couple of them are in a show about a comedy show about a fire department, but I can't remember what. Really
branching out from law enforcement over to the fire department.
And Jay Chandrasekhar, the guy that plays the chief of their department, he has directed a ton of things, written and directed a ton of stuff. So
of their things,
and other things. Yeah, all right. He has really branched out a lot.
See, and all this is because of Urshela. He had a 2-run home run because every time I see it, I think of that name. Tyler, this is from another listener, so if you're getting mad at me, I'm just sharing what was also to the brain dead texter comparing colleges to KFGO. Does KFGO get government funding? No. Well, and we also don't go around with these, surveys saying, okay, well, Eric, I want you to be my producer. But first, this survey, because I want to know how you voted in the last election. What are your political beliefs? That just doesn't happen. It would be highly inappropriate if it did happen. In a private company, let alone a public university. It's what is being laid out as groundwork in some of these states, in particular with Ron DeSantis. And again, I keep coming back to he's a hypocrite because he's saying, I just want to make sure all sides are heard. The sides that are on your side, you want to make sure that that's amplified because there are states out there that have gone and prohibited teaching some theories, and some of them in areas in which they were never even being taught in the first place. That old critical race theory. You can agree with it, you can disagree with it, you can not have an opinion on it whatsoever. But if you're going to ban the teaching of some of those theories at these institutions and then come out with this, you're not being very consistent. But the stuff that's the most troubling in what has been proposed and signed into law in Florida is the threatening of funding for universities that don't meet what you think as a governor or a legislature are meeting your standards when it comes to political representation. And again, I'm going to say this one more time. I went to North Dakota State University. Not exactly a big liberal institution. At all. And I'm in North Dakota. It's just how we got here to where there's all this, everybody's just the victim of, it's not fair. It's astounding to me. 237-5948, that's Laney's studio line. You're going to want to remember that number because we've got passage to the Red River Valley Fair. In fact, that starts, what day is it today? The 6th, the 8th, Friday. The best 10 days of summer. We're going to be out there for some of those days. Not this Friday, unfortunately. I'm going to be, I shouldn't say unfortunately. I'm going to be telling you about a nice place out in Detroit Lakes, but I know that JJ is going to be out there this Friday. I'm going to be out there, I think, Monday, Tuesday. News and Views will be out there. I do believe Couch Potato Radio, meaning Derek Hansen, will be making an appearance as well. But earlier, I said, keep note of this. Actor-director Sylvester Stallone, his birthday, 76 years old. He can think of the movies. I rank him as the second best action star of the 80s. I mean, it's hands down Arnold Schwarzenegger is the number one. But Sly Stone had some good hits. And what we're going to do is just play a clip, and you call into 237-5948, or you text me at 35270, the name of the movie of what that audio clip is from. And I've got, if you get it right, 2 tickets, 2 passes to the Red River Valley Fairgrounds. So with that being said, I've laid the groundwork. I'll get to these other messages trying to yell at me. But we'll play a clip for you. And all you got to do is call me and tell me what movie this clip is from. All I got to do is name me that movie. 35270 is the text club. You want to call in, that's cool. 237-594. I see the phone lines lighting up. Tell me the name of the movie. Sylvester Stallone was an actor in that movie. And you know what? There were some pretty big clues in that clip. Starting off easy, I'm saying. But we'll see if, in fact, the callers get this one right as well. We got a number of other audio clips of a variety of movies. He wasn't just in this. I almost gave you the answer right now. I'm glad I caught myself. But we'll play some of the other ones between now and 5 o'clock when we, in fact, get you ready for the Drive Time News. I'm going to take them in the order of which they come. And that's where Doug comes into play. Doug, how are you on this Wednesday?
I'm fine.
Very good. You heard the clip. What movie was that Sylvester Stallone movie?
Rocky 1.
Doug nailed it. Congratulations, man. I'm going to put you on hold. You got yourself a pair of passes, gate admissions, to the Red River Valley Fair. It's good for any of the days starting Friday all the way to the 17th. Was that simple? We're going to play a couple other ones. Not right now, a little bit later on, and all you got to do is do what Doug did. You call in and you get the movie right, and you and a friend or a family are going to the fair. And I got to say, and I know that we were talking about this last year, but when now this lineup is together, and what I mean by talking about it last year was they tried something new at the Red River Valley Fairgrounds. And Cody Cashman, I think, has been just brilliant in what they've brought forward out there. You know, it used to be, you know what, just pay to get through the gates and you can go to all the concerts. Well, if you wanted big names to come here, you know what, that takes money. And I get there is a little bit of heartache right away, but boy, has it paid off this year. You look at this lineup and you see the expense that they're putting into entertaining you because of the investment that a lot of you put in yourselves out there. So we're going to be bringing you some of that. I'm going to be out there, I know, on Tuesday. That's Tesla night. I'll be hanging around. And before then, I do have some of those passes. So you can go watch Tesla on us as well. That's coming up a little bit later on. I'm going to take a quick break. Doug, congratulations. We've got 3 other opportunities throughout the rest of this show to get you a pair of passes to the Red River Valley Fair. But first, some of these messages will come back and have a little bit of fun. It's 4 o'clock. It's 4:17 to be exact on a Wednesday. It's beautiful outside. Let's enjoy it together here on KFGO. I mean, he was in a lot of movies. Not all of them were good. 237-5948. Tell me what movie that was from Sylvester Stallone, and you will also get in to the Red River Valley Fair. You can text me at 35270. That was a little bit more difficult. Start off easy for you. Everybody thinks about Rocky. When you think about Sylvester Stallone, he's Rocky, right? There's a couple others that might come to mind. This one, maybe not. They just had a remake of this movie, I think, 4 years ago. See, the phone lines are lining up, but yeah, just tell me what movie that Sly Stone clip was from, and you and a friend or you and a family can get on out. Again, anytime between this Friday and the 17th, the 10 best days of summer. Going to be out there in West Fargo here. I'm going to get to the phone lines because I see Brian is called. And Brian, I hope you were able to understand that clip.
It was Judge Dredd.
All right, coming right out of the gates with the Brian. I like the confidence. You are correct, my friend. Congratulations. I'm going to put you on hold because you and a friend or a family are going to be going on over. Eric Johnson will get you those, the contact information. Judgment Day was not the right answer coming in at 35270. That would have been Terminator 2, in which I said you put Arnold Schwarzenegger as the top action star of all time. Sly Stone's like number 2. Do I dare say that Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, is coming in at third? I don't know. You could add Jean-Claude Van Damme to that argument. Who else would you even put in contention right now? Because all these movies are happening that are having the same actors over and over, just like we had in the 80s. It's just Vin Diesel and Dwayne The Rock Johnson. I can probably... no, I'm not going to read that one from my friend down south. 35270 coming up. I got more messages. I will get to some of those in a little bit here. But, Bruce Willis would enter into this conversation as well. He was just diagnosed with, I think I don't know if it was rare, but some disease in his mind. But Bruce Willis, I would add into this conversation. Okay, so do we do a top 5 here? Number 1, Arnold, all the way, top action star of all time. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. I'm going number 2, Sly Stone. It's his birthday today. That's why we're playing these audio clips for you to get out to the Red River Valley Fair. He is 76 years young. Not all make it to 76, but there's no way that physique holds up like Sly Stone. How many movies do you think him and Dolph Lundgren have been in together? I mean, you had Rocky 3. You've had The Expendables, like all of them.
Yeah. I feel like there was one other one too. One of those prison break movies. What was Dolph in the one with Schwarzenegger and Sly?
That's Expendables you're thinking of.
No,
that's the second Expendables.
Is it?
Yes.
No, I thought there was a standalone. I thought there was a standalone breakout from prison movie that was Schwarzenegger and Sly that may or may not have featured Dolph Lundgren.
I don't think that is a thing. I would watch it because I think it's called Expendables 2. That's why.
It could be. I mean,
I don't know. Harrison Ford adds to the conversation. Yes, Indy, Han Solo.
Yeah. I mean, to me, that's broadening out the action star too much.
Okay, well, Arnold, Sly, you're a Jean-Claude Van Damme
JCVD
guy.
better be on that list. I won't quibble with the top 2, but if Mr. Van Damme doesn't make it on that list, then it's just a bad list.
You just liked his high kicks. That's what it was. The movie is called Escape. I don't believe you. What?
I told you.
If that's the name of this movie, that's even more ridiculous. Yeah, the Escape from Prison. Yeah, the name of the movie is called Escape, man. All right, get to the Google.
Escape Plan. That's it. Escape Plan.
You're thinking of Escape Plan. I've never heard.
Yep. Do the Google on it. It is a prison break movie with both Arnold and Sly Stallone.
I see Escape Plan 2. That does lead me to believe that there is an Escape Plan 1. I just cannot find it. And if I were to look this up for a streaming service, where would you recommend that I find Escape Plan? I hope that's somebody calling in to set the record straight. Never heard. Okay, so you're adding Chuck Norris getting added. I will allow Chuck Norris in. I will. The missing in action movies, he was Universal Soldier comes in. Yeah, that's Jean-Claude. And he was with Dolph Lundgren in that movie. I'm going to do the phone lines and talk to Jeff. Jeff, thanks for calling in. How are you?
I'm all righty. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. I'm trying to ease into that 5 o'clock punch out for all of us.
That sounds like a good plan. Hey, weren't Schwarzenegger and Stallone in a cop movie together? Like mid-'80s?
You're going to have to have me pull it up. Were they trying to escape from prison? Because I just got educated that Escape Plan was a thing.
No, they were cops, and they were I want to say they're going after a drug dealer.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. There was a movie in which Sylvester Stallone was a cop, and it was him, but I don't think it was not Arnold, the one I'm thinking of. And of course, now I can't think of that movie either. But it was an '80s movie that he was a cop. Eric, are you pulling up some names back there?
Yeah, I've got
phone lines are blowing up.
Yeah,
here.
I've got a few here. Just they've both been in a lot of movies, so cross-referencing their filmography is a little tough.
Jeff, you stay in. Somebody's going to be listening out there and give us an answer. I appreciate the phone call, and we'll get that for you. Because I'm trying to think, and all I can think of is Stop or My Mom Will Shoot. And I know that's not the right movie that's coming to mind, because that's not the cop movie. Great radio. All this dead air.
Just us thinking.
Yeah, just me and you thinking. This would be like at the moment where you've got your phone in your hand right now because you're texting in. Do it. Tango and Cash with Kurt Russell. Thank you. That comes in. That's what it was. That's the one that's coming to mind. Tango and Cash with Kurt Russell is the movie that I'm thinking of, and everyone else had it in their minds. Jeff, I hope that was the answer for you, but not Arnold. Kurt Russell was the number 2 in that one. There's other movies. I'm glad that we have not given any more answers to some of these clips that we're going to be playing. Was somebody calling in and say it was Tango and Cash?
Yep, that is exactly right.
Do you remember when I was talking to you and Rusty Hoverson about Tango and Cash earlier? Today.
Mm-hmm.
Those words, the name of that movie left my mouth. I couldn't do it on live radio.
Yeah.
Thank you for all you faithful listeners for getting out there. Somebody's saying, there's a number of people saying Cobra. I do not know. I'm not familiar with Cobra. We'll continue the investigative search here during the KFGO News. I do want to give you an update. In fact, it's not a good update. A 2-run home run. It is now 8-8. And it just happened moments ago. It's the bottom of the 8th. There's 2 outs. Twins are tied with the White Sox at 8 runs apiece. Home run after home run after home run. Just like blockbuster after blockbuster after blockbuster. Sly Stone. We'll come back. We'll play some more of those movie clips because I've got 2 more passes for you to get to the Red River Valley Fair. If you can name the Sylvester Stallone audio clip, that's coming up here in just a little bit. I'm Tyler Exodus, your host. The other guy, his name's Eric Johnson. He's our producer. We got another half hour with you on 790 AM, 94.1 and 104.7 FM, KFGO.
KFGO News, partly sunny, Fargo-Moorhead 83. I'm Paul Jurgens. The body has been recovered from the Red River in Moorhead. Police say juveniles discovered the body along the shoreline near 7th Street and 10th Avenue North at about 12:30 this afternoon. The body was that of a man. Captain Derek Swenson says it appears the body had been in the river for a significant amount of time. The fire department pulled the body from the water. The body was sent to the Ramsey Medical Ramsey County Medical Examiner's Office in St. Paul. Reporter Scott Peterson says the search continues in central Minnesota for a missing 6-year-old girl from Northfield.
Authorities have been focused on Mississippi River Park near Rice in Stearns County. Elle Reagan was last seen June 19th, and her mother, Lisa Wade, was found dead of an apparent suicide Saturday in her townhome. 3 days of searching have included more than 100 volunteers, canine units, water patrol with sonar, and dive teams.
Fargo-Moorhead 83, this is KFGO News. This is KFGO News. A prosecutor has decided not to charge a Fargo man who shot his friend during a drunken argument on the 4th of July. 22-year-old Kyle Lovis called 911 and reported that he shot the other man in a mobile home in the Countryside Trailer Park off 25th Street South. Assistant Cass County State's Attorney Ryan Youngren says the victim admitted that Lovis was defending himself. Lovis was originally arrested on charges that included attempted murder. The man who was shot suffered significant blood loss but is expected to recover. Fargo police arrested a West Fargo man late last night who tried to get away on a bicycle. An officer attempted to stop 29-year-old Nicholas Peltier near the intersection of 13th Avenue and 34th Street South. He was riding his bike without a headlamp. Police say Peltier tried to get away by riding behind buildings and through yards. He was eventually arrested with the help of other officers. Peltier was arrested for refusing to stop for police, having drug paraphernalia, and possession of stolen credit cards. Flags are flying at half-staff in North Dakota, Minnesota, and across the country in honor and memory of the victims of the mass shooting in Highland Park, Illinois. A man is charged with killing 7 people and wounding dozens during a 4th of July parade. The orders come from Governor Walz and Governor Burgum. Flags will remain lowered until sunset on Saturday. Lake County in Minnesota's Arrowhead ranks number 5 among 3,200 U.S. counties on food and nutrition. That's according to a survey by CVS Health and U.S. News and World Report spokesman Gary Emmerling.
We also look at the estimated percentage that people in a county spend on fruits and vegetables, and then what they spend on soda and sugar-sweetened beverages.
Also factoring into the food and nutrition ranking is availability of food, including farmers markets, and how much healthy versus unhealthy foods available at restaurants and elsewhere. Residents of Albert Lee in southern Minnesota are cleaning up after flash flooding caused significant damage last night. More than 6 inches of rain fell within 2 hours. Some people waited out the storm inside businesses as their vehicles slowly became submerged in water, and some floated by. Fargo-Moorhead, patchy fog, partly cloudy, humid overnight. KFGO. Meteorologist Tom Szymanski is expecting 64 for the low. Tomorrow, isolated showers and thunderstorms, partly sunny, 81. 84 for Friday, partly sunny on Saturday. Some humidity to deal with, 88. Partly sunny, humid Sunday, chance of showers, possible thunderstorms, 86. Fargo-Moorhead, partly sunny, 83. Paul Juergens, News Radio, KFGO.
Now that we've gone down the rabbit hole together, it turns out that Arnold and Sly were in a total of 4 movies together, and I wasn't exactly wrong when I said Expendables because they were in all 3 Expendables movies together. The only other one was The Escape Plan, which is what we were throwing out there earlier. So there, we've put that to rest. But you know what? I've got another pair of passes, so you tell me what clip this movie is from, and you will be going on. Feels like a truck, like a machine when he turns his baseball cap backwards. What movie could that possibly be, and which starred Sylvester Stallone? 237-5948. I see that the phone lines are up and running, and I'm just waiting for the number and name to get punched in. In fact, I'll wait for Eric Johnson to get the second caller in, assuming that Terry doesn't get it right when I get to him or her in just a moment. But in the meantime, let's get to Terry. Terry, you're on Afternoons Live. How are you?
Good.
Did you hear the clip? And if so, can you name that Sylvester Stallone movie?
Over the Top.
Terry, my man, that is correct. Over the Top. You remember watching that one back in the 80s?
Oh, yeah.
How ridiculous of a plot movie, huh? Just arm wrestling. But Terry, congratulations. I'm going to put you on hold. Eric Johnson's going to get your information so you can get on out to the Red River Valley Fairgrounds. Again, starting this Friday all the way to the 17th. For those that are on hold, we will be playing one more, but it won't be before CBS News. I'll get Terry his tickets. We'll get you caught up with your national news headlines. Final 25 minutes of Afternoons Live for a Wednesday is underway here on KFGO. Stick around. You know, one of the things that Paul Jurgens, our news director, did let you know about, and this report did come in just a little while ago. And once we get more information, obviously, we will share that with you. But yeah, that a body has been recovered from the Red River in Moorhead. That juveniles discovered the body earlier today, about 12:30, so a couple hours ago. Word coming out within this last hour. And they have not identified, but it does appear that had been in the river for a significant amount of time. If you want to know more, you can just go to kfgo.com and check out more there. I know the Clay County Sheriff's Office sent for the ambulance assisted on scene out there, but some tragic news on the Moorhead side. And I know that the Ramsey County Medical Examiner's Office down in St. Paul is going to be involved with this as well. So keep it locked in. If there is any new developments on that, our news team will be out there giving that to you as well. 35270, that is the iConsultants of North Dakota text club. You can also call in to the Laney studio line at 237-5948. There is a couple items. Yes, I have one more pair, and we'll get that between now in 5. But when it comes just to politics, just for one moment, just enlighten me for just a moment before we get you to that 5 o'clock punch out. I've been watching some of these polls that have been coming out as of late, and I'm just going to throw this out there. And Democrats, you can be mad at me all you want. I know on the generic ballot, Democrats have had an increase. And when it has a breakdown of who's more inclined to vote which way in approvals, Monmouth poll, overall Democrats are even with the GOP on a generic ballot. So it's a nameless ballot. Democrats were down quite a bit. Well, they're about even now. But Joe Biden, low approval rating right now among 18 to 35-year-olds. Approval 28%, disapproval 63%. That ain't good. Generic ballot for that demographic of 18 to 35-year-olds, 59% favor Democrats, Republicans 34%. Here's the problem, folks. That demographic doesn't vote often, and in particular in midterm elections. So there is that situation, but you have Joe Biden very much underwater. At the top of the ticket, not this time, but certainly the face of the Democratic Party right now. And one thing, and I had this feeling over the last couple of days, and this is where you might get mad at me if you vote Democrat. Kind of feels like the White House is phoning it in right now, doesn't it? That's the impression I get. Certainly there's daunting tasks out there. It just doesn't feel like the fight's there to the extent perhaps earlier in the administration. I mean, take, for example, if you will, the fact that the Supreme Court decision on Roe versus Wade was leaked out months ago, and that they didn't really have a plan to address or do much about it when, in fact, the actual ruling came down. There are other areas out there where you expect somebody from this administration out there saying, you know what, here's the jobs numbers looking pretty damn good, isn't it? I get people are saying the economy's and no one's working. It's not true. People are working. Unemployment rate's down in across the country. But you're not hearing that. Gas prices, they're still high, but boy, they're coming down. Nobody's talking about that from the administration. You've got some other policies out there that might show just a silver lining when it comes to prices of things. We think about inflation and how out of control some of the prices have gone. Pocketbook issues. And the reason I bring this up, because you look at what the biggest concerns in that same poll shows when it comes to voters. 33%, number one issue is inflation. 15%, gas prices. 9%, the economy. 6, bills, groceries. That's top 4 of the top 5. Number 5, abortion. And all it gets lower and lower from there. So those tabletop issues are what people are caring about right now. And I know this is what you always throw out, because when I talk about January 6th, why aren't you talking about this? Even though we do. We can keep our eyes on both of these. And rest assured, when the next hearing happens next week, we will be talking about that, because the deputy press secretary for Donald Trump's White House is testifying. I'd said last week when Cassidy Hutchinson spoke to that committee in front of you, those that were willing to look at it and willing to listen to it, that if at the very least what she did was allow for other people to feel comfortable to come forward, that's a good thing. And by coming forward to either agree or refute what she said, even if it's saying what she heard was wrong, it's still a good thing to get individuals talking instead of hiding. Every time we broach this, you say, do you believe that stuff? You yell at my producer. You don't come on the airwaves and talk to me about it. But you wonder why we don't talk about these things. Well, where is the White House talking about these things is where I've come, and I've wondered why. I know that Kamala Harris, for reasons, was applauded for getting into the vice presidential office. Broke a glass ceiling. But over the course of this administration, you can't tell me that her star's risen at all when it comes to pure politics. In fact, I think it's quite the opposite. If you were to ask, I would assume as a North Dakota Democrat today, or a South Dakota Democrat. Who you want running for the White House in 2024, I don't know that Joe Biden or Kamala Harris would be in the top 3 on people's minds there. And maybe I'm being too hard on them. For a lot of you saying, geez, it's about time you do. But I had that gut feeling earlier this week that it just feels like maybe they've thrown up the hands of actually picking the fight and talking about what they are doing or what they're trying to do and why they haven't been allowed to do what they think would help. And without them out there beating that drum and saying, here's what's going on, here's what we're trying to do, that void from the White House, the void from Joe Biden or those that could actually carry that message out there as being filled by others of saying how terrible everything is, even if they don't always have the data to back it up. Am I alone feeling this? 35270. You can call me at 237-5948. Tyler, vast majority of Democrats I know as a Democrat aren't fans of Biden and only voted for him against Trump. Almost everyone I know has just graduated high school and are now eligible to vote. All plan on voting this November, even though voter turnout has been low in the youngest voting demographic previously. I think that it's going to be different this year. Well, in the latter part, I hope you're right. I really do, because I think we can go back election after election and show that that has not been the case. I'd be curious why. I mean, if there was a specific issue that has resonated with these younger voters saying, you know what, I can't sit this out anymore. Maybe you got some insight. I'll allow you to text back in. As far as the not fans of Biden voted against Trump, I think about that, maybe not on the, I'm not a fan of Biden, but people voted against Donald Trump. So when you have all this, well, geez, there's no way this guy got the most votes ever. Well, no, it's the other, there's so much emotion and drive to throw out and fire the other guy. That's why they turned out so in high numbers. Because number 1 was Joe Biden. You know what number 2 was? Donald Trump. Get you this weather update from Tooth Tall Tom Szymanski. More of your thoughts, plus I got the final pair of tickets today to give away. We'll play that audio clip right after this year, and we'll see what's coming up with the Drive Time News. Jack Sunday going to steer you into Couch Potato Radio. That's Derek Hansen. Twins are still in action, still tied at 8 runs apiece. I'm trying to see it. It's the top of the 10th, so we're in extras right now. If that does wrap up before 5 o'clock, I'll share that with you. I'm Tyler Axis. You got locked into KFGO Fargo. fighting for them. That's my impression. I'll get to some of these messages, but I want to talk to Paul, who's called in. Paul, do you know what movie that Sly Stone quote was from?
It's a real tough one. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say Rambo: First Blood.
There it is, Paul. We wanted that one to be easy for you. I appreciate you getting that right. You are going to the Red River Valley Fair. I'm going to put you on hold so Eric Johnson can get you your information. Yeah, that one was. We were going to play the First Blood clip, but we just figured we'd give it a little bit more of a spice for you. But back on the task at hand here, I wanted to get those out because I told you I would. Here's some of the messages I got in response. The vast majority of no, I already got the one. Tyler, loyal Democrat here. I didn't vote for Biden. I voted against Trump. I would say I do not approve of Biden's job as president. Elizabeth Warren for 2024 comes in. Tyler, totally agree that this administration is way too silent. I have no idea what they're working on. It's so frustrating. I feel like they have chosen between social justice and being able to afford to live. I just think that if they're fighting out there, they're not doing a good enough job of conveying what they're trying to do and saying, you know why we can't get it done? It's because of that. It's because of the way the Senate Republican is filibustering everything. I'm just not hearing it the way I was at the earlier stages, is where I am at right now. And it's still early in the game, folks. This midterm election is still a few months away. I think it's time for them to actually start taking these out for a walk. Messages continue to come in, but Jack Sunday's got the drive time news. He's in studio. Twins still tied.
Yep, we have a Minnesota Twins on over at 7:40. They're tied in extra innings, and I hope that when I'm done with the drive time news hour, that I can go out and get in the car and listen. I hope it's still going. We're in the 17th inning, but anyway, go Twins.
Yeah, well, this would be a sweep. This would be a good sweep, a good series to, in fact, do that with White Sox. What's coming up on the drive?
Well, all the news you need for the drive home, CBS News shortly, and then we'll have Too Tall Tom Szymanski join us, or at least we'll take a look at the weather, and Paul Jerkins with news and traffic with Paulie Lyons, and Derek Hansen has sports. And in my interview segment at about a quarter after, we have Greg Tavine, who is one of the founders of Emerging Prairies, and they're going to break ground out in the Castleton area on the Grand Farm. It's an autonomous farming mock-up, or no, they're going to do it.
Yeah, it's going to be a real deal.
I mean, it's which is pretty interesting. It must feel like to farmers, like the Bonanza farmers thought when they saw those steam tractors out there, and they had herds of horses. And what are we going to do? But anyway, that. Funny how time goes on. Rusty Halverson will be with us, and we'll have markets. Well, everything you need for the drive home. Sorry, I don't mean to be distracted, but I was trying to remember whether or not Joel Heitkamp was in the building today. Oh, we will have okay, thank you. We'll have another ride with Joel Heitkamp.
Oh, yeah.
So
get his 2 cents.
All the news you need to get home.
That's all coming up in about 5 minutes' time. Tyler, Amy and Pete had the best message the last election. You put Amy Klobuchar up there, you put Pete Buttigieg. Yeah. And one thing that I admire about their approach is they go and say what I think is needed to be said, and they're not afraid to say it to those that probably don't want to hear it. I think that's an important message and an important tactic that, quite frankly, I'm just not seeing right now. I'm going to address this one. This is a tough way to leave the show, but it's a straight-out lie that I'm going to correct. Tyler, the Chicago shooter was Antifa leftist who believes America is bad, so he shoots at a 4th of July parade. The Uvalde shooter was a deranged transgender leftist. When will the left stop the hateful rhetoric? I mean, are you on the same platforms that this murderer at the 4th of July parade was on? All the lies, all the conspiracy theories, all the BS. I mean, you can open your eyes and look at something besides all the conspiracy lies online or whatever news outlet you're watching that's being untruthful. It's not true. I mean, I don't think that the political leaning of the individual in this latest shooting motivated him to do it, but his own photos was he was at Trump rallies recently. So I don't know where this whole misinformation, disinformation, lies, wherever it's come from, and not true at all. We'll continue the conversation another day. Tomorrow, we've got our usual lineup. We've got Audibles. That's brought to you by Don's Car Wash. We'll have that game. We'll check in with Tanner Cherney. Spencer Wirt was going to be on the road, but he said he'll try to check in to answer all your meat-related questions. But that is it for me today. I'm Tyler Axis, your host here on Afternoons Live. I will be back tomorrow from 2 to 5 for more of the show. Till then, you drive safe and take care of yourselves. I'll check in right here on 790 AM, 94.1, and 104.7 FM, KFGO.